And we're back for the last segment of our show. Tom Gibson, Chuck Augustin. And Chuck, go ahead and pick up. You're on at the bit to get
Okay, we got
this.
about this far in the 2 pages of agenda I wanted to get through, but that's the way it always goes. Real quick, you're arrested. You end up going in front of the judge. That's called the...
should be initial appearance.
Okay, initial appearance. At that point, the prosecutor says this guy should be OR. No, he never says this guy should be OR.
No, they do.
Do they?
Yeah.
Well, tell me, what do they do at that
At the initial appearance is where the person has been arrested. They're appearing in front of the court for the first time. The DA is probably not real comfortable, or excuse me, familiar with the case, because there's 4 different DAs or maybe more than that charged in the case, and so it could be somebody else had charged it, so you don't know much about it, or it wasn't charged by the DA, the cops just arrested the guy. So you're just kind of shooting from the hip, and you read the declaration, and when sometimes say if the cops arrest somebody for being a jerk, you can see that, and rather than keep him in jail for being a jerk, most DAs, at least when I was working there, I would say ORM, unless the guy was just over the top, obnoxious, and then maybe they want to think about their sins for a while. But anyway, so at that point, the judge will then either the person will remain in custody, or they will be given a bail Well, there'll still be a bail will be set, but if they can't afford it, then they'll want to be OR'd. That's on recognizance release. And if you are released on your own recognizance, then it doesn't cost you anything. But if they set a bail, then you have to either post that cash bail, or if it's a bond, then you get a bail bondsman involved, and they put up, they take the risk, and you put up collateral for them to do it. So, but anyway, that's what happens at the first initial appearance.
And at this point, you don't have a lawyer unless your family's hired one or whatever.
Right. And if you're smart or you have money, your lawyer will already be there for you, and you'll probably get out of jail unless it's a really serious crime or you got a terrible appearance record.
Now, if you don't, there's sometimes PCs that are sitting there, talking on your behalf, right?
PCs?
Or what's it called when
the public defender.
Public defender.
PD.
PDs.
Yeah.
But that may or may not happen. But you haven't even been assigned a person sometimes.
And the PDs normally, they've got their own life and job to do, but if they see an injustice, they will step up and say, Judge, hey, come on. Sometimes the courts will say, here, see if you can settle this, because the court will read, and it'll be S with a capital silly on it, and so he'll send ask the defense attorney to talk to the DA and the defendant to try to work something out and to get him out and the thing done with. And it's like plead guilty to a disturbing the peace, and you get to go home. No fine, nothing. And that does happen.
Ray, what do you got for us, buddy? You're late.
Hey, I've been trying, but your line's been busy.
Wow.
What can I say?
Yeah, blame Louie.
Louie and Amy.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I did get through. Hey, I've been watching. This is Ray the Flagman, by the way, for all the people out there listening and watching. I've been in these courts for the last 14 years. I'm an observer. I encourage people to come in, sit in these courtrooms, and see what's going on. This is a wonderful show tonight because they're enlightening everybody as to the injustice of our justice system.
You think I'm making any of the cops upset?
What it is. Say it again?
Am I making any of the cops upset, do you think?
I think we're making everybody upset, and that's a good thing, because it's way out of whack.
Absolutely.
They stack charges against people. They punish them because they can. They don't care about innocence or guilt. All they're looking for is the collar and the score. It's the same way with the prosecution. I mean, they see that it's overbearing, and yet they keep going after people for trivial things, and it's completely absurd.
I always wonder if they ever put themselves in the place of the person.
Once in a while you see sympathy. It's not too often, but once in a while you'll see it. If it's a really case, a tear-jerking case, you see something. Let me give you one example that happened in Room A that I thought was probably the most egregious. There was a Hispanic guy that was put on trial for 2 dogs barking. 2 dogs barking. Someone went on the stand and said these dogs barked numerous times. was an interpreter used. I think her name was Gracia, and she was the interpreter. And this fellow was defending himself. He had no lawyer, and he said, "Look, my dogs are in a housed area, and they're not barking." Just the accusation that his dog barked numerous times, the judge in A, and it was Ron Kent, sentenced the guy to a fine of $9,998. And this guy was devastated. And I couldn't believe it. The prosecution was elated that they've got this humongous fine. Guy paid $4 large out of that, and then Kent, he absolved him of the rest of the money because I guess he felt this was excessive fine. But I thought about this. I says, here's a non-speaker to an interpreter defending himself just on the accusation someone said his dogs barked numerous times. These are the things you see in the court, and you just can't believe it. You say, what country is this? Why is this happening? What can we do to change it?
And that's something, until you go there, like Ray does all the time. I've been there a couple times, not as much as I'd want, but you can't imagine the amount of money that goes through that court. I always compare it to McDonald's drive-through, except the dollar menu is 120 minimum. And that's for, 1 to 9 over the speed limit.
Here's part of the problem, though, and I'm going to go on the record here. Sharon Worley, I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to make you look good. Now, here's the deal. What happens is when the State Patrol or the deputies cite someone, okay, for a matter that will probably end up in a fine, okay, mainly traffic, but misdemeanors as well, they always or have a tendency to file it under the state statute. There's a county ordinance they could file under that. Now, why is there a difference? If you file under the county ordinance, who gets the money for the fines? The county does. If you put it under the state statute, we send it up to Carson City and let Governor Sandoval have it.
Oh, by the way, in 2015, right before a lot of this traffic ticket increase, the Supreme Court of Nevada sent a message to the governor saying, and this is public knowledge, saying, we need 700 million, I think the number was, or else we're going to close down. And the reason they needed the money is because they lost revenue, because the police throughout the state police,
right,
were minimizing the tickets compared to the good old days,
right,
because they wanted to stop deaths on the highways and things like that, not be a revenue source.
Well, drive up to Goldfield sometime if you ever want to see how it's done. And Goldfield is a very small town, and the highway 95 goes up, and it takes a sharp turn, and then goes another sharp turn. Well, right there is Goldfield, and they have, you talk about a scam. They got there. I mean, you're driving along with the speed limit is like 70, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're going all the way down to 25, then it's 15. And when you're going that rate of speed for that long, it's difficult to drive that slow because your brain is already wired to go at the higher level. And so it's almost painful to be driving that speed. And their cops are just waiting. I mean, just like they would rather give you a ticket than to win the lottery. Yeah. Okay, and so anyway, they but all that money is what carries Goldfield. Otherwise, they would be completely broke. So I suggest that if you want to make more money for the county, be more aggressive. And I'm not saying don't.
That's ridiculous.
Be more aggressive on how you.
Screw the people.
It's because I mean, I'm not saying that to take it easy on people. What I'm saying is that when that's a huge source of revenue, and what you look at it as taxation. They're being taxed. And what happens when they get to court with their speeding ticket? Guess what? They say to the prosecutor, hey, we'd like to reduce this down to a non-moving violation. And they look at your record and say, oh, you deserve this. Okay, it's a non-moving. So your record's not going to be affected by it unless you stupid enough to just mail the dang thing in and pay it at the window. Go into court, negotiate it, or get a lawyer to do it for you, and then you don't have to show up. And then what you do, then the money that there'll be additional revenue, and it's taxation is what it is.
Yeah,
you're not agreeing with me, but
it's the
All right,
founding
let me say
fathers
a few more
rolling
words
over.
before I hang up. You guys took over the show. I mean, you know, here I'm on the line and you guys are talking. Hey, you got to do something about Courtroom A. This cannot go on with Sullivan and Whitaker. I'm watching it. They've cut the schedule down to half a day now. They're only doing mornings there. Preliminary hearings are set way off. It's supposed to be within 15 days. They'll send it 25 days because they just don't have the time to be an open court. Let's appoint somebody as justice of the peace in Courtroom A and get it done instead of just keeping these people on a part-time basis. All right, keep the faith.
Power to the people.
And thank God we saved the Tigers. Good night, gentlemen. Good
Bye.
show.
The reason I keep thinking about our founding fathers and what they would think of all this revenue talk and tax talk and all, what happened to protect and serve and the very basics of liberty that our country's supposed to be about. And that's why we've gone down the hill. We've lost sight of what we're about, especially in government.
right.
And until we go back there, we're going to be discussing revenue and taxes and all these things.
And, you know, and the thing is rather than worry about where are we going to get the money, why not just do what should be done? Cut the fat.
Exactly.
Cut programs. You know, and whenever I hear people, and I'm sorry, cops, but you know, it's like we need more policemen. Why?
Yeah, why?
Why? I mean, if you put 50% more police officers on the street right now, in the next 3 months, you know what you have? A whole lot more arrests, but we wouldn't be any happier, and it would be extremely difficult to go anywhere without having to look over your shoulder to worry about somebody watching you.
I'll tell you what, I spent 22 years in the military. I will never call the police again. That was the first time I ever reported anything or called the police. And I will never the rest of my life. I don't care if the Russian army's walking in my driveway.
Well, I mean, the last time I called the police was I was with my wife and kids, and we were at a restaurant, and this woman was probably wigged out on some type of drug, and she was babbling. She'd peed herself, and she was walking in the middle of the street and almost got hit by a car. And my wife made her stay there until we called the police, and they did they came and they picked her up. I mean, she would have gotten killed probably.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to let it happen. I am.
Darwinian theory.
Yeah,
Okay.
I learned my lesson, and if that's the lesson you want to get across, that's what you are getting across.
But at the same time, I took the risk. I knew when I called the police, but I know most of them anyway, and so I'm not really worried about them because if they know you, they're less likely, and they know that you're not some criminal.
But yeah, that's what the taxpayers are so pissed off at. You got to be an insider. Otherwise, you're screwed.
Now, we're almost out of time, so we'll pick this up again next week, but we'll go from
next month.
Next month. From where we left off here, which is where basically it's still the initial contacts, the DA's getting the case for the first time, you know, and we'll go on from there to all the way to the very ending, and we'll call it the victory. So see you in next month, and take care. And as Ray Mello says, keep the faith.
And power to the people.